Great morning, friends. Great morning, world. This is your boy, Dr. JC Doornick, aka the Dragon, and welcome to another edition of the Make Sense with Dr. JC Doornick podcast, specifically Make Sense Mondays. Today, we are going to make sense of one of the things that are probably one of the most dominant topics of discussion going on in your mind today, which have a lot to do with handling adversity with grace. I call today's topic the timeless dimension. And what we're going to discuss today is this idea of detaching from wants and desires and creating space for you to just have an enormously wonderful day today. So we're going to play around with that idea that so many people frequently say, but infrequently execute on. And that is this idea of detaching from outcomes and also making this attempt to live in the present moment. So I hope that you'll enjoy this. Just a couple of little housekeeping notes. This is the Make Sense with Dr. JC Doornick podcast, available on all podcast platforms. As you can see, we're streaming live right now. That's what's unique about Make Sense Mondays. You're getting, if you're watching this on YouTube, if you're watching this on LinkedIn or Facebook, you're getting a live uncut version of this, which means that I might screw up, and that would be exciting. Wouldn't you just love if I just completely screwed up? Wouldn't that make you feel good? I love when people screw up. It makes me feel good about myself. So in any case, the podcast version of this will be all polished up and cleaned up and posted this afternoon. And that would be to the Make Sense with Dr. JC Doornick podcast, which is climbing the charts. And we're getting a lot of great feedback from that. So welcome to Make Sense Mondays. Just in the live format, I just want to say I just came off of a live event this weekend and just really made some cool distinctions about just getting back to being with human beings live. Great morning, Colleen. Just being around people. It's just so different. You know, I think we went through this time warp or some sort of a wormhole where we thought that we successfully transitioned to online and virtual, you know, which I'm kind of doing with you now, like Zoom and texting and all that stuff. And we had to do that because of COVID, but COVID's over and we don't really even know what COVID was. Maybe the people that wanted us to get comfortable with the internet ran COVID. Who knows, right? There's a lot of conspiracies out there. That's not my intention to start chatter about that, but COVID's over and it's time to get back to being with each other and feeling the energy in the room when you're among people and high-fiving and hugging and shaking hands and eating dinner and lunch together, seeing people nod and seeing groups of people at the same time, not being able to take yourself off the screen and things like that. It's just the best. And the distinction that I made before I start today is just that I think that what happened is that we got so comfortable with something comfortable, just sitting down in front of our computer, pushing a button and talking and doing work and working from home and all that stuff. And now we kind of inherently know that we need to go back out there and start being with people. And we're seeing that as an inconvenience, you know, the inconvenience being an obstacle that's preventing us from doing it. However, inherently, we know that we need to do it. So my prediction is that one day we will no longer meet in person. So I'm looking at that as a very, very fragile, time-sensitive thing that I'm going to take great advantage of. And one of the ways I'm going to do it here in my area is we're going to start having a monthly mastermind meeting that we're going to call Trilogy Night. That will be part of a sequence of events that will build into bigger ones. So if you're interested and you're in the New York tri-state area, or even if you just want to make a trip out for one of our awesome events, which is going to be personal growth driven, but also with a primary focus on on a healthy body rests a healthy mind. We're going to have some talk about physical health being the catalyst of change for mental health, and then financial freedom. So if you're interested, just comment trilogy night, and I will send you a document where you can at least get on the email list for that and find out. There's going to be once a month, and they're awesome. It's what we used to do before the big C. Okay, so let's get into this. I wrote a nice journal entry that's probably going to go into Brains Magazine. So I'm going to share from this, and hopefully you'll get some takeaways. And when you pop in, please let me know you're here. In the comments, I can actually see the comments on all the social media platforms. Let me know who you are, and you can ask questions. I like to do things on the fly. Great morning, Diane. Great day sighting up today. Cool. Well, then that means we'll be seeing each other more often. But just say hi. Feel free to ask questions. I love to do things on the fly, and just remember that I edit these things for the podcast after, so we can do whatever we want now. So here we go. So it's an interesting observation. Enjoy this. It's an interesting observation of human behavior, is the concept of wanting. I think it flies under the radar very often, the concept of wanting. So in Buddhism, which is not a religion, it's just a philosophy that the chicken and I, my wife, which I call chicken, practice. We just love it. So in Buddhism, there's much talk about desire being the root of almost all suffering. So what does that mean for you? Well, if you're suffering right now, pay attention to this concept that desire might be at the root of it. Great morning, Lindsay. Good to see you. So my share with you today comes in the form of almost 53 years. In July, the dragon's going to be 53 years young. But for 53 years, I've been paying forward some valuable lessons that I've learned along the way that I'd like to have known before, right? So that's the concept of paying something forward, is I'm acknowledging some things that have been very immensely powerful and valuable to me, and I'm sharing with them with you, take it or leave it, because I value them so much. And that's kind of a moral obligation. I always say, in a world full of thirsty people, if you find the source of water, it's your moral obligation to share it. If I find out that someone down the street is handing out crisp $100 bills to anyone for the next month, I'm going to tell people about that, because I know $100 bills would be valuable. There's some other valuable things that we just don't know are valuable because they don't look like $100 bills. Another story. So I hope that these things that I'm about to share with you both serve you well, but also my hope is that you will use them well as well, because you know that I can teach something and you could know something, and then you would just be someone that knows things. But if you take something that you know and you put it into play with consistency over time, that's how you get the haves in life. Another story. So the historical Buddha was a man who discovered a way to live life. This is the essence. I'm going to give you a little bit of Buddha 101, Buddhism 101. He discovered a way to live life free from suffering, if that's interesting to you. Great morning, Chris. So he developed and organized a logical system of instructions and explanations that anyone could do, right? And it was for anyone wishing to attain the same freedom that he enjoyed. So there's that pay it forward concept. If I experience ultimate enlightenment and how to enjoy life free from suffering, or unaffected by suffering, more importantly, I would want to share that with everybody. That's what I'm doing here with you today, because as those of you that know, my whole get up is that I have this thing called the interface response system. And I teach people how to change the way they look at things, or execute on changing the way you look at things, so the things you look at will change. And a lot of people want that, because they know that if I change my perception of reality, my reality will change. So I'm here to share with you elements that are all picked from the interface response system. Now, remember, what you're experiencing right now is called Make Sense Mondays. If this kind of thing resonates with you and you'd like some personal one-on-one time with me in our community, we have this amazing thing called the Make Sense Academy, where I do this every morning, but we do it live in a Zoom format and we all interact. with its purpose. That's just the personal growth component of it. Make Sense Academy is building a business academy in it to teach all of those things that you need to level up your business, but also the mental health component done by the chicken. Every single thing going on in that community is $24 a month. So if you're looking for coaching, mentoring, and networking and building your communication skills and everything, and hanging around with like-minded seekers of expansion that all want the same thing, check out the Make Sense Academy. Just type in the word community and I'll send you an invitation. So let's talk about living free from suffering. So he developed and organized a logical system of instructions and explanations for anyone that was wishing to attain the same freedom he enjoyed. And that is called a life. Here's a word that you can write down: a life of equanimity. Equanimity. If you look that up, equanimity means it's a state that is defined. Well, it's defined by a state of psychological stability and composure, which is undisturbed, a psychological state where you are undisturbed by the experience of or exposure to emotions, pain, or other phenomena that may cause others to lose balance in their mind. So, first of all, think about what it means to be all jammed up in life, because he's saying it's the same thing as saying that I've lost balance in my mind. And he's also saying here that equanimity is this state where you acknowledge that you have thoughts and emotions and feelings. You don't get rid of those things, but you're unaffected by them. Great morning, Julie. Oh, it's good to see you. Very, very interesting who shows up in the morning sometimes. And there's my beautiful chicken. Great morning. And I get a heart from her. No hearts from anyone else but the chicken. Okay. So at the heart of this system, this is Buddhism. And I just want to share a little Buddhism 101. Whether you like it or not, this is valuable stuff. At the heart of this system that Buddha was paying forward and sharing is called the Four Noble Truths that are central to Buddhist philosophy and crucial to embrace on your journey of equanimity. Here are the Four Noble Truths. I would write these down. Write these down because these are very, very special. So the Four Noble Truths are: one, life is suffering. Just the acknowledgement that life is suffering. And you want to know the truth? Life does suck and then you die. But can we change our perception and relationship with suck? That's why I always say embrace the suck, right? Can we learn how to dance in the rain? And can we learn that we can dance in a hurricane when we're standing in its eye? So let's talk about getting in the eye. So one of the Four Noble Truths: life is suffering. Two, attachment to desire, there it is the cause of suffering. So there's a big, big aha. You cannot suffer unless you're attached to wanting and desire, because suffering is about not having it. Okay. So three, suffering ends. If you're interested in ending suffering, what is it? Eckhart Tolle says that if to end suffering, it starts with the acknowledgement that you are, right? So that could be connected to one. And then the second one is the decision that you no longer want to suffer, right? And then you go into action. So you have to first acknowledge that you're suffering, because you might not think you're suffering, especially if you're in a victim status. You will not claim that you're suffering. You'll probably be more attached to the idea that your suffering is because of someone else, and your suffering can't end until someone else alleviates what they're doing to you. That's not the way it works. So one, life is suffering. Two, attachment to desire causes suffering. And three, if you're interested, suffering ends with the detachment of desire. That is why today's Make Sense Monday is about detaching from wanting and desire. I'm going to teach you how to do it. Now, the fourth noble truth is the eightfold path is the path to liberation and suffering. So that moment that you want to stop suffering and learn how to detach from desire and wants, what you would do is you would take the eightfold path. So I'm going to go over that quickly, but there's some gems in here. We're going to be together for about 30 minutes or a little bit more. So the eightfold path is not a linear path that we take step by step. It is a holistic and interconnected set of practices to be engaged in simultaneously. So these are things that you will do one by one, but you'll build them into this basket of things that you're doing simultaneously. As progress in each area can support progress in others. That's called balance, right? Or harmony, like an orchestra. You don't just have one instrument in an orchestra. So the Eightfold Path is a comprehensive and lifelong journey. The 8 elements of the path are described and broken down into 3 different categories. So that they're described as right, wise, or skillful, and they're typically divided into 3 categories. And those categories are wisdom. These are write down things. I'll put them in the notes after. The 3 categories that encompass the 8 are wisdom, ethical conduct, and mental discipline. They are collectively known as the threefold training. So, wisdom, ethical conduct, and mental discipline. These are the things that we're going to do as a process to learn how to detach from the idea of wanting and desire. And you'll see, for those of you that are goal oriented, there's a place for that. But what I'm talking about is you having a better day. So, in the first category of wisdom, the threefold training, the first of the Eightfold Path is called the right view. So, this is something you can practice. So, it includes a correct understanding of the Four Noble Truths, right? This is a consciousness things, the law of karma, right? The principle that our actions have consequences, and the impermanence and interconnectedness of phenomena. So it's just about having the ability to go, there's something to that stuff. It involves recognizing the nature of suffering, its causes, as well as its value and the path to its cessation. So the right view is just basically about waking up and becoming open and curious, right? Great morning, Deb Silverstein. So the second, right resolve. Right resolve means cultivating wholesome and ethical intentions. This includes our intentions to renounce harmful actions. That's a decision to renounce harmful actions, to develop goodwill and compassion towards all beings. Seek out the bright side. This is a conscious decision. This is how I'm going to resolve when things happen. When the shit hits the fan, I'm going to have the right resolve to seek out the bright side of all solutions and to cultivate a non-attachment or non-harming practice as part of your every outcome. So number 3, the right speech. We can control what we put in and what comes out of our mouth. So the third of the Eightfold Path under wisdom is the right speech. So false speech, divisive speech, harsh speech, and we know that that sometimes comes out of our mouth, and idle chatter or gossip are all considered unskillful and harmful, which if you do them right now, I'm going to say, I forgive you for you know not what you do. You didn't mean to be unskillful and harmful, but they should be avoided and you would have to be conscious of them. So that's why you would want to practice the right speech. So instead, we should use our words to promote truth, harmony, understanding, and love. Now that makes sense. And you'd say, yeah, in a perfect world, I would do that, but you can do that. We can all do that. Most of the time we talk too much. So the third category would be ethical conduct. And then we have some of the Eightfold Path in there. So number 4 is the right action. Now, remember what I'm talking about now are steps that you can take to release yourself from want and desire and end your suffering or end the current relationship you have with suffering. So the right action, number 4, skillful action emphasizes ethical conduct and the importance of leading a life that is aligned with more principles. That's a more meaningful life. So that's attached to your actions. So this means refraining from harmful actions, including killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, and so on. In other words, being a good version of you in coordination with the things that you want most. Number 5, the right livelihood. To engage in right livelihood, it means choosing work. So this is about your career and your day-to-day. Choosing work that is in harmony with the principles of ethical conduct and does not, once again, harm others. I have a do no harm concept. You know, it's like what I was taught as a kid is if you don't have anything good to say nothing, right? Didn't do that most of my life, but now I have a do no harm practice. So for example, this would include avoiding professions that involve harming people or sentient beings or engaging in dishonesty with others and yourself. Take a look at social media right now. and see how many people have figured out how to like make tons of money using social media and algorithms and courses and all that stuff. I'm impressed by that, right? And I'm intrigued by it. However, what kind of a life is that? Is that a meaningful life? It's one dimensional. And we could easily get sucked up in that. Number 6, the right effort. So let's look at our action steps. Right effort means making a persistent and diligent effort to cultivate wholesome qualities and eliminate unwholesome ones. Abandon negative mental states and nurture positive ones. You know what's interesting about abandoning negative mental states? It's not saying pretend they're not happening. If you're having a negative emotion in your head, and we're going to make this effort, this is under right effort. If you're having a negative emotion, feeling, and thought in your head, don't be a fool and pretend it's not happening. Just allow it to happen, just like the inevitability of a wave coming and building up and then crashing on the shore. But what you're doing is abandoning the negative mental states, meaning saying, hey, I see you, thanks, but no thanks. And then focusing on, by choice, positive ones. And that's what it means to see the bright side. That's why I started the Bright Side Facebook group, which has tons of people in there. It just gives people things like this. So the third category is mental discipline. And number 7 of the Eightfold Path is the right mindfulness, the right state of mind. What is the right state of mind? To detach from want and desire. Okay, because that's a big part of it. So right mindfulness is the practice of being fully aware, conscious, and present in the moment. This is what we're going to talk about in a second. Being present in the moment. There's no way you could be present in the moment and enjoy and celebrate this moment if you have a desire for want and if you're in want or desire, because those things exist in the future, right? So mindfulness is the practice of being fully aware in the present moment, observing our body, our feelings, our minds, and mental phenomena with clear and non-judgmental awareness. Those are the things I can fix in the podcast, but you get to see them here. And number 8, finally, the right concentration, focus, right? Right concentration is the development of a one-pointed focused mind, laser focused, one-pointed focused mind. You see me all the time say, I wear these shirts that say breaking news, I don't care. I do care, but I don't care about stupid shit, right? I only care about things that are in conjunction, in support of what matters most to me, right? Things that are on the bus. I've created a bus that's going in a certain direction, and I only allow certain people on that bus and certain things on that bus. So I have to keep my right focus. That's what it means to be laser focused. It's not just on one thing, but it's on one thing, but everything that's in connection with it and everything else can, you know what. So right concentration is the development of a one-pointed focused mind. This is achieved through meditation. These are some practices. We do this almost every day in the Make Sense Academy. Remember, we have a private academy that has everything that me, Chicken, our partner Julie, from a business, from a mental, and from a personal growth standpoint, physical and mental personal growth. We have this private academy that's for $24. You get everything times a million that you're seeking in mentorship and business coaching and in support and community for $24 a month. So if you're interested in that, let us know. So remember, the Eightfold Path is something that we can all practice. Practice is something where you go into action, recognizing you're not good at it at first, and you continue to do it until all of a sudden you go, hey, I think I'm good at that, because I notice that I do things without even thinking anymore that are good for me. So we can all practice that. And there's the concept of practicing it is to lift the weights and break the chains of our suffering, not elude suffering. Suffering actually has value, but change the way you look at suffering and operate and relate with it. Not eradicate it from existence, but eradicate your current relationship and perception of suffering. Make sense? Okay. So what I find interesting. So here are a couple of little things that I want to share with you from my own personal experience. What I find interesting about desire and wanting, and I mentioned this briefly, is that the human brain, your brain, cannot enjoy the present moment and be in a state of gratitude. We always say, I have an attitude of gratitude. If you are in a state of want and desire, think about it. Those things live in the future. How can you live in the present moment and experience something like gratitude when we're in state and desire? Why? Because they happen in the future. They're occurring in the future. Desire and want are things that you also do not currently have, right? You could say, but I have desire. And then I would just simply say, for what? And then you will notice that that's something in the future. And like I said, there's nothing wrong with wanting and setting goals, right? But there's something wrong with living in want and desire and never being able to celebrate what you have because you're in want and desire. So they come in steps. Does this make sense to you? You guys liking this stuff? Give me some feedback. So they live in the future. It always represents the next step, want and desire. So Eckhart Tolle, once again, speaks about that moment where we experience the elation of getting what we want. Think about that. When you set a goal and you do the hard work and you experience the get, the have, right? You cross the finish line. So call it achieving your goals, reaching the finish line, whatever you want. But he points something very interesting out. He points out that the reason that we love that feeling so much has little to do with the act of actually achieving what we wanted, as much as, meaning here's what it has more to do. We are unconsciously experiencing what he calls the timeless dimension. That's what he refers to as the present moment, the timeless dimension. Write that down, the timeless dimension, and ask yourself, what does that mean to you? So the reason why it feels so good is that it is pure love and gratitude in that moment, the timeless dimension, for all that we have versus what we have not, which live in desire and want. Super cool, right? Lots of content here. So there can be no suffering. Catch this. This might be your takeaway for the day. There can be no suffering in the timeless dimension, as suffering is something that requires wanting and desire. There can be no suffering in the timeless dimension. There can be no suffering in the present moment when you eradicate and detach from want and desire, because suffering requires want and desire. Make sense? So this poses a big challenge for us, though, right? Especially in this world. I mean, God, I'm always encouraging people to set goals. I even teach people how to set goals in the Make Sense Academy. So this is a big challenge for us, as we have been raised and programmed to want. I mean, natural selection, only the strong survive, by nature, is about becoming the fittest and strongest to survive, the best looking. I mean, that's why when you see somebody on Instagram trying to like look amazing, they don't understand why they're doing it, but it's natural selection. They're programmed to try to rise above the rest to survive. Only the strong survive. So this is why there's a challenge. That's why people are sleepwalking. In fact, we have also been programmed to assume outside forces, right? Outside forces. We're not only programmed to do things from inside to out, we've also been programmed to assume outside forces, including things like society, others, and want from us as well. So if you look at things like society and others, what you see out there, they want something from us as well. Heck, right now, if I'm giving a message, right, I'm in a state of giving right now, and there's nobody to receive, I'm at a loss, right? So just realize that society and everything out there wants something for you. They want you to want, because if you don't want and they have something to give, well, then they get to keep it. Remember, if somebody gives you shit today and you don't accept it, you say, hey, thanks, I appreciate the effort, but thanks, but no thanks. Who does that shit belong to? The giver, right? So you understand how the outside world needs you to want. So that's another reason why it's challenged. It's how we are wired. Make sense? So can you see where suffering comes from now? Are you a little bit more in tune with it? Because remember, all you have to do is first decide that or acknowledge that you're suffering, and then decide. That those four noble truths are very important. And then if you practice that eightfold path, and I'll put it in the notes, and you can look it up anywhere, that's your day-to-day, and you'll have everything that you ever want. So where does suffering come from? You're not unlucky, and it is not some outside force happening to you. It's just a programmed and expected symptom of want and desire. It's a programmed and an expected symptom and side effect of you wanting, needing, and desiring things. When we say the obstacle is the way, as Ryan Holiday says, and it comes from Meditations and Marcus Aurelius, when we say that the obstacle is the way, this is only true when we are on our way somewhere. Think about that. If you're going to get into this obstacle is the way, and I love that concept, if you're not on your way somewhere because you're enjoying the moment, well, then there's no obstacles. However, when we're sitting in the present timeless dimension and this present moment, there are no obstacles. Think about it. If I'm sitting, I did some transcendental meditation, and if you guys want to get into transcendental meditation, which is super cool, I got a free 100-day series that I follow, and I do it every day. And in that moment, I'm in the timeless dimension. And in that moment, there's no obstacles, free from it. And you might think, well, then there's no growth with no obstacles. Be like, well, yeah, there's plenty of growth coming when I become the best version of myself. So sit with that one for a second. When we are sitting in the present timeless dimension and moment right now, there are no obstacles. Wouldn't that be fun? If you want to learn how to do that, let me know. Just type in TM and I'll send you that link. So what does this mean for you, and how can this knowledge and practice serve you today? That's what I really want to do. Is I want to hand you something today. Like we're in some sort of a four-man relay, and I'm going to hand you the baton. Okay. Wrapped, a gift. So what does this mean, and how can you use this today? So the very nature of setting a desired state. And let me read that again. The very nature of setting a desired state and making a decision to go after your dreams requires the radical acceptance of what comes with it. That's a step. That's what it means to make the fundamental decision, a whole body yes decision to go after and get something. You have to also acknowledge what comes with it. When I make a reference to this idea of embracing the suck, and you see me wear that shirt, and David Goggins talks about that, what I'm referring to is the radical acknowledgement. And everyone knows this, but you don't accept it all the time. You hope that it won't suck. The radical acknowledgement and acceptance of how hard times and challenges are part of the deal when we have wants and desires. See, most people have wants and desires, but they haven't radically accepted the suck. Okay? If you're looking to avoid hard times, you must consider getting rid of all wants and desires and move into a space where you radically accept simply just being you in that timeless dimension. Now, if you do want to go somewhere from there, let's say you get to this place like I have, where I'm very, very comfortable with who I am, and I'm just satisfied with being, because in that moment that I'm being, I'm celebrating something that I've worked hard to become. Right. But in that moment, I find myself ready to level up. And if I make a decision to go to a new level of being, I have to radically accept the suck and get excited about the suck, because that comes with it. So where this gets challenging again, which is part of what it is that, which is part of the win that you seek. This idea of, let me read that again so we can get that for the podcast. So where this gets challenging, which know is part of the win that you seek, is not really a realistic approach. It's not a really realistic approach, as we acknowledge the idea that our time is limited, and we move through life with the greatest desire of them all, and that is to matter. Think about what I'm saying. What I'm saying is if I'm saying embrace the moment, right? And I'm saying enter the timeless dimension, detach from want and desire. The reason why that's tricky is because we know that time is limited, and we also know it's unpredictable. That's why we get so focused on want and desire. And I get it. I've spent most of my life like that. Okay. Because my greatest desire before I slide into home is to matter, to make sure that my time counted. So for a human to have no wants and desires, they would in effect need to be dead. Grasp that. Am I right? I mean, think about it. So I'm not saying lay down and die here. I'm just saying stop and smell the roses every now and then. because where you are right now is what you've worked hard to get to. And if you can't learn how to embrace and celebrate this present moment right now, why even bother going to get something else if you're going to skip that one too? So, however, through the practices of like meditation, the eightfold path, or things like breath work, which I try to practice every day, and they're super valuable, more valuable than you can imagine, we can learn to take moments of our days where we practice that radical acceptance of simply being and visit occasionally this timeless dimension. I've been there once already today. I'm not there right now, but I was there once today and it was nice. It was really, really nice. And it was a wonderful way to start our day. And it's something that we do very frequently in the Make Sense Academy. So, using these daily mindfulness practices as reminders of the existence of this dimension and enjoying the beauty in celebrating your accomplishments and who you've become in this present moment is a wonderful concept. It's a wonderful practice. Remember today, the things that you have right now in this moment were once the things that you wanted and desired. Catch that. The things that I'm encouraging you to enjoy, celebrate, and embrace today were once things that you wanted and desired. Enjoy them and celebrate them, just as I'll encourage you to enjoy and celebrate the ones you're on your way to today. Okay, very important. Celebrate them by celebrating just being you. Celebrate them. You know, the idea of being comfortable in your skin, you should be comfortable in your skin. Look what you've accomplished to get in that skin. That's amazing, right? So do so before, here's the danger, do this before you move on to a place, move on and place your focus again on future wants and desires and who you are, and leave behind who you are in this moment. Who you are in this moment will all of a sudden become what you call the past that everybody's telling you to get rid of. Do you want to get rid of who you are right now? You might want to evolve and level it up, but you don't want to get rid of it, right? That would be the end. Okay. So what's at stake? Who you are right now is about to slip away and become who you were. Take a few moments today and celebrate who you are right in this moment. It's a wonderful way to start the day in that timeless dimension before it does slip away. Make sense? Love and appreciate you all. Would love to have you come along for the journey. We have so many things going on. We've got the Make Sense Academy, which is the most brainless, valuable thing that anybody could ever do that wants to level up. So just let us know. Type the words community in there, and we'll send you an invite, free, risk-free opportunity to try that. We've got our monthly meetings now. We call them Trilogy Night. Let me know about that. If you want to get on our newsletter, type in a newsletter, and you can follow me on Instagram at Dr. JC Doornick. I love and appreciate you all. Have an amazing day. Check out that timeless dimension. Bye-bye now.